get right into it. All right. Oh, who put that there? Ranked 69 last night in Rush. My first time cracking the top 100. Pretty excited about that. All right. So, what TOA is? TOA, in my opinion, is nothing more than a glorified extreme tutorial teaching you how Summoner's War should be played. Now, with that being said, I'm not minimizing the challenge that it does mean for some mid to lower level players, or even some in-game players might have some difficulties with certain stages because of how they've chosen to build their comps. And that's the issue with TOA. TOA itself is here to teach you how the game mechanics work. So if you're not really paying attention to how the game mechanics work, then you're going to struggle. In TOA, they're trying to teach you about CC, turn manipulation, turn cycling. It also challenges your rune quality to see if you're really applying yourself in the 3 dungeons, Giants, Dragons, and Necro. And really, for Necro, you don't need to do that one at all to complete TOA. It's about team composition, understanding how the game works, and PvE elements, and speed tuning your comps to work in an effective manner so they all complement each other. You want to build a team, and that's the point of TOA. Some people try to grab their Giants team and slap it in TOA like, oh, look at me, I have a minute Giants time, which, you know, a year ago would have been respectable, but after this last update, it's pretty slow. But that's okay, you'll get there one day. It's not going to work so well because you're going to get to some elements in TOA, even on TOA normal, in which the enemy comps are going to just outclass you because of their speed tuning or unit capability. So what you got to do, how I approached it, is I built my core. And what I consider my core is the 3 strongest units I could possibly put in there and tune them correctly. And then I'll have a 4th complementary unit and then an X factor depending on the stage that I'm looking at. And now I'm going to run through some of the units that I started with and give you some recommendations on how you can mimic what I did or toy around with and see if you like that composition for yourself, that it might make it a little bit easier to ascend in the Trial of Ascension. Now the first unit I'm going to recommend has been around for as long as I can remember in the game. It's fusible, and you're probably going to pull him 400 times out of Mystic anyways, and that is Beretta. Now, with Beretta, what his kit brings is his S2 is a full attack bar reset on one enemy, and this is for attack bar manipulation and control. You get to decide what unit is going to move and what unit isn't going to move. It's especially great on boss fights, and you can use it intermittently on trash stages if something gets out of hand. The second skill I'm going to emphasize is his S3, is Phoenix's Fury. Now what this is an AoE, and it applies 2 dots to all enemy units through resistance check and whatnot. So the build for him typically you see will be on Despair, because stunning, turn negation, or turn denial is great when you're trying to stabilize your team. It's only a 25% chance with Despair runes, but it feels like it's a lot more. As you see on your screen, one of my runes isn't even above +6. That gives you a little insight on how frequently I currently use him, because I have a better setup now, but I'm just going back over what I used to use because it is effective and efficient, and it will get the job done if you're struggling in certain aspects of TOA. The next unit I'm going to go ahead and talk about is not farmable, but very accessible. There's been, I believe, at least one weekend in which they put him out as a free unit to acquire versus via the special dungeon that they do once a month, and that is Mav. Mav is a great unit. I see you looking at the runes. Stop it. Those runes aren't for you, they're for me. Don't judge. I use him in an entirely different way. Now, his kit is what I want to highlight here. Skill 1 has a chance to stun. Once again, turn denial. Great for TOA. Skill 2, he recovers his own HP by 25%, and he has a 75% chance to taunt one unit, which means that he forces one unit to attack him with their skill 1 the next turn. Why this is so great: if you take him into a boss fight, bosses are not immune to taunt until you get to floor 100. So you can literally control the actions of the boss for as long as you have that skill accessible. Which brings up, and I'm going to highlight the next skill. Removes one harmful effect from all allies. That's just a bonus. I mean, you really don't need that, but hey, it's great. Decreases the skill cooldown of your team by 1 turn, which is great for your own turn cycling. It brings up skills faster and allows you to access skill 2 and skill 3 a lot faster on other units. And it also applies a speed buff to your entire team. So that's going to give you a 30 speed advantage every turn. It's great. Now, when you pair him with other units, like Beretta, whose skill 2 is on a 3-turn cooldown, it becomes a 2-turn cooldown. So that skill 2 attack bar reduction becomes a lot more accessible more frequently. And the key to this is having your team tuned correctly. You're going to want your Beretta moving before your Mav. And that allows for you to maximize the effectiveness of each skill that you're laying down. Because if you start wasting skills, you're going to open yourself up for counterattacks or for things to get out of hand. Next thing you know, you're wiping and starting over. The next unit that I'm going to throw out there that I believe is great, it is free to play, it is fusible, and I know it's a grind for some people because they don't like to fuse these monsters, and I don't understand it, but Jean, or Jean, however you want to say it. This unit is amazing for TOA. This is probably the best damage mitigator in the game. And what I mean by damage mitigation is it will control where the damage is dealt. So if you use her skill 3, which is an AoE taunt for 2 turns, all damage is going to be dealt to her for the next 2 turns. And when you only have to focus on healing one unit, it makes your comp a lot more stable. You don't have to worry about something randomly dropping. Our skill 2 is a full cleanse and invincibility for 1 turn. She can sustain herself between that and her skill 1, which heals for 10% of her own HP every turn when she attacks. It's great. Other free-to-play options that a lot of people have access to would be Spectra. As you see, mine's not ruined. I don't use him anymore, but he is the fastest unit in the games, which means he has the lowest rune requirement to get him to be the fastest on your team. What makes this unit so great is his skill 3 is an AoE slow, which means it's going to give you a 30 speed advantage over your enemy right off the bat for the rest of your team, which lowers your rune requirements to take turn 1. His skill 2, he does damage based on the enemy's max HP. He's a boss killer. You slap defense break on him, you use skill 2, bam, 25% of their life is gone if you have them on a crit damage build. The reason why I'm talking about certain particular units in this way is because they all work together in one fashion or another as long as you build the team composition correctly. Another free-to-play unit that works well is the Water Homunculus. Once again, don't look at those runes. Those runes aren't for you. They're for me. I would recommend him on a Despair build for TOA. Despair, because all of his attacks are AoE unless you specifically select the skill 1 that has a single target debuff removal. I don't recommend that for TOA. The AoE freeze is a much better option. The only reason mine is currently a water type is because I spec'd him back just to go over this video with you guys to help give some insight on as a sustainable method in which you can clear TOA. The absorption on his second skill is AoE, reduces everyone by 30% with a 50% chance. So he will steal 30% of everyone's. If there's 5 units up, it's 120%. He's basically going to steal another turn to use Ice Mist. Ice Mist is a great, probably the best skill 3 in the game for TOA and TOA hard mode. Attacks all enemies to inflict 2 continuous damage for 2 turns. 1 additional continuous damage effect is inflicted for each harmful effect already on the enemies. And that is why I went out of my way to talk about those other units first. Beretta moves turn 1, applies 2 dots, AoE, possibly stuns, so you have 3 debuffs. Then your Spectra moves, applies the AoE speed break. Now you have 3 to 4 debuffs. Then you Ice Mist. You're going to get 2 dots initially, so you're already between 5 and 7 debuffs on there, and then that's just going to multiply the chance that he's going to max out the debuffs, and you might get an additional stun if he's on Despair. Which brings me to another unit that I feel is great if you have access to them. There's a 3-star and a 4-star in this family that are great. I mean, they're amazing units to run for TOA. I swore by them for 2 years, and that would be Woundhawk or Gildong if you have the Water Element 4-star version. Now, Woundhawk is a 3-star, and I know, like I said, not everyone has access to them because we all know how LD scrolls work. You spend years chasing the one particular LD unit you want, and you're never going to get an LD 5. But that's another subject for another video. Right here, skill 2. Attacks all enemies 2 times with waves of water. Each attack has a 30% chance to decrease the target's attack speed for 2 turns. So it already has an attack speed break built in. I prefer to lead in with an attack speed break that's more consistent, like Spectra. If the target already suffers attack speed reduction, this attack will stun for 1 turn. Now, what makes that skill so amazing, it's a 3-turn cooldown. And you pair him with Mav, it becomes a 2-turn cooldown. And then you have your core set already in there with Beretta, Dot Stuns, Turn Denial, Spectra, AoE attack break, or speed break, and attack bar reduction by 20% on skill 3. More Turn Denial. Then Ice Mist with the Homunculus. They're all maxed out on debuffs. Then you then you Woundhawk with the skill 2, AoE stun everyone. They're probably not going to move. Well, they're not going to move because they're going to be stunned. And then you Mav, you recycle everything, and not one trash wave should ever move when you're going 1 through 99. Any trash wave you could think of should not move with that particular comp, that particular turn order. It's very safe and very successful. Now, the downside with this comp is it's a little slower than most speed cleaves that you see G3 players using, or like I showed you at the beginning of the video, rank 69, because I just double-lutioned my way through TOA normal. If you're looking to get the fast clears, you need to have the sustainability first. You don't get to just start running if you can't even walk through TOA. So you got to take the time to build the units and build them correctly and speed tune them correctly, and then you got to spend about 5 years in Dragons and Giants to get the rune quality to do the speed clears. So start off with the simple, safe, and efficient ways to get your clears more sustainable and reliable. And once you get to that point, then you can start toying around with different team compositions to maximize the efficiency of the clears. Because I know no one wants to spend 3 or 4 or 5 days trying to clear TOA. If it takes me more than 4 hours at this point to clear both of them, I get annoyed. I understand where you're coming from, but we all have to go through the motions and the steps. Other units I want to show, not so much showcase, but at least mention or highlight in this video are the Boomerang and Chakram dancers, because there's a lot of animosity right now because of the last nerf. And I'm going to tell you guys just from my perspective, because I wasn't much of a big Twins user for TOA prior to the nerf, even though I did mess around with them and it was nice. It's not much of a nerf. I'm just going to tell you guys that flat out. It's not. It really, you probably can run the exact same comp in the exact same way, and you're not going to see much of a difference. If you are seeing that big of a difference, it's because your rune quality isn't where it needs to be, and the Twins were making up for the lack of your rune quality. If you have the Fire Chakram and the Fire Boomerang, just between the two of them and Violent Runes, there should be enough stuns that none of the mobs are going to move. So all you're losing on that aspect is the turn denial for the boss stages. And there are plenty of other units that do turn denial even better than the Twins did prior to the Twins becoming popular or even introduced into the game. And one of the biggest units that has that advantage is now in the current meta for PvP. I don't know why it took so long for her to catch on, but Lauren is a unit that I have been using for the better part since she's been introduced. This unit is an amazing unit. Now, as you see by my build, I don't use her for PvP. I'm not a big RTA player myself. But for PvE elements, this unit's amazing. It works in all three of the standard dungeons. I mean, I don't recommend it for giants just because of the counters and the multiple hits. But for dragons, she can work. For Necro, she's pretty amazing. For boss stages and TOA, she's basically a TOA god. She will not let a boss move. A lot of people last month were complaining about how hard the Vero stage was because it's on floor 80 and it's almost impossible. But if you took a Beretta, you took a Water Homunculus, both fusible or grindable, whether it be in the elemental rifts or just grinding out, and fusing a Beretta. And this Lauren is available via SD. So there's no reason that you can't have all three of these units. Beretta, Water Homunculus, you're going to dot down the Pernas, you're going to dot down the Light Taoist. They're not going to last more than 2 turns, and Lauren's not going to allow Veramos to move. So it's literally a 5-minute fight, and all you got to wait for is the dots to kill down the ads, and then you hit auto, you go make a sandwich, and then you come back, and by the time your sandwich is even settled, before you take your first bite, the boss is dead, and you got to move on. Another big issue that a lot of people have is when the female boss is on floor 100 on hard mode. Once again, Lauren is basically a cheat code for that stage. She has 3 different variations in which the boss can split off into 2 ads, and it really doesn't matter which path it takes. 2 of them, I will say, are a lot more stable than the 3rd variation. If she keeps in the blue or the green with Lauren and the proper team composition, which I recommend, like a Vertiheel, Beretta. If you have a Varad, that's great. If not, Spectra works. Poseidon works. Just turn advantage and AoE. You just got to land 1 AoE stun, and then the match is yours, because the boss is never going to move. If she keeps the red one in, unfortunately, there is a chance, if your rune quality isn't great, that if she attacks the boss revenge procs, and then Lauren, if she's on violent procs again, and the boss revenge procs, you could lose Lauren. But that's the only scenario, and you got to have very substandard rune quality for that event to even happen. So I recommend building her on a speed HP build, or if you really want the extra attack, speed HP attack. I don't see that as viable build, but a lot of people run it. So, like I said, those are just easy, simple, free-to-play solutions that are obtainable by everyone. A lot of times when people ask me, how can I clear this stage, and I tell them, hey, it's really easy, they get frustrated with me, but because they look at my my monster box and they see, oh, well, you got Varad, and you've got this monster, you've got that monster. I have a TOA 100 video out, my last TOA 100 video, where it's just the final boss fight using nothing but free-to-play monsters. You guys, some people don't seem to understand that we didn't all start with these accounts. We worked hard for these accounts. I didn't get my first Rad until about 8-9 months ago. So I had to play the game the same way most of you guys are struggling through certain parts of these stages. I went through the same thing, and I learned the game mechanics, and that's the biggest thing that I stress, and I hope that you take away from this video, is if you can just learn the game mechanics on how certain things are going to interact with how you build your team composition, it's going to lead to more success. You know, in certain instances, if you're taking a full wind team into a full fire team, the advantageous aspect of that team working isn't great in your favor. The wind unit is always going to target your water unit. If they're faster than you, the better chance of a failure on a run. So just learn the game mechanics, learn how things are going to go. And once you know how the fight works, it's easier to overcome any obstacle in that fight. Like the biggest thing I like to take in PvP, I know Sierra is going to always target my water unit unless there's a defensive broken unit, because twist math, defense broken equals greater than ignore defense for Sierra's bomb. I don't understand how that works, but knowing that game mechanic, it'll allow the fight to go a little bit more simpler for you. And the same thing applies more so in PvP. There's more control over, PvE. Because the game mechanics are always going to follow the baked in elemental advantage, disadvantage of the game. So it's up to you just at that point to make sure you counterpick what the game's baked in. So like the Artemel stage. That's the other big thing that everyone has an issue with. Artemel, Light Archangel, the 2 Wind Monkeys, and the 2 Light Yetis. Not going to deny it. It's a tough stage. Even for me at this point in my playstyle, for as long as I've been playing, I still find myself challenged by that stage because of the recent buffs, or not recent, but more recent buffs to the Light Yetis. But knowledge of how that fight works is key to beating that stage. It's not really a TOA ending stage like most people try to say it is. Like, I can't pass this stage, it's just impossible. It's not impossible. The Light Archangel will always attack a dark unit. So that's one way you can control how the fight goes. The Wind Monkeys will always attack a water unit. The Light Yetis are going to go for a dark. So just in that, there's a Hall of Heroes that was released a couple of years ago. It's been out twice, and most people have access to them. That's a DS, the Dark Death Knight. I mean, if you don't have a huge selection of 6 stars, but I know you probably have that one built for R5. If you don't have that one built, then you've got to find other options to mitigate the damage or control where it goes. Once again, bringing him back to the Light Paladin, the AoE taunt, highly effective. The stunning, the dots are great for the ads. Beretta is amazing. I don't recommend the Water Homunculus for that stage because of the Wind Monkeys, but the Water Homunculus can be used if you just want to yellow it, throw out as much dots as possible, and then let him get nuked. Because you run the risk, if a taunt doesn't land, that unit might go down. Some people like to just speed, ignore defense, cleave it, which is one way to do it. I prefer the more sustained method. Like I said, I take the Beretta, I'll take the Mav, I'll take the Jean, I'll take the Diaz, and I'll let it play out and just turn cycle myself until I get more dots, burn down the ads, and then once it's just the Light Archangel and your 5 units, you hit auto because that boss is never going to move again, and make yourself a sandwich. Kick back, relax, let the game play it out for you. But I mean, other than a few key stages, TOA and TOA hard mode is not that difficult. It is really just a glorified tutorial to teach you how to play the game. One of the other stages that a lot of people have issues with that I see is the double Jolton stage. When he's in the high 70s, I believe. I think his cap is 79 is the highest they'll place that stage. And when he gets attacked with a critical hit, he does 12% of his damage, or his health is damage as a passive. The easiest mitigation around that, Tessarion or Hearn, the water dryad. Oblivion is great. If you don't have access to either one of those for some reason, the efforts have been around for about 3 or 4 years now. I think everyone has a Tessarion. The last water Hall of Heroes they placed out for you guys was, I believe, Emma, the water Neostone agent. Shields are great for that reflect damage. I don't have one built, but I use Bastet in that fashion for the same reason, just the shield, and I nuke through it. There's simple solutions that you can come up with that it's easy to navigate once you understand how the fight works. If there's anything you feel like I didn't cover, if you have any more questions about the turn mechanics or game mechanics in TOA, feel free to leave me a comment below. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. I'll release some supplementary videos just showing more gameplay on how to clear TOA and TOAH. I already blew through TOA last night, and I'm working on TOAH right now. I think I'm on pretty close to 80 now. And I'll release those videos just so you guys can get some more insight and see how I attack the TOA mechanics. And hopefully that helps you grow in your gameplay and makes it a little bit less frustrating for you. Like I said, if you like what you see or if you have any more questions, leave a comment below, hit the like button, hit the bell. You're going to be seeing a lot more videos from me. And I look forward to helping you on your Summoner's War journey. This is Manitove. See you in the next video.